Okay. Got it.
This is Ready, Set Reiki, a podcast about Reiki, this universal energy life force. From the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, we welcome all lineages and all levels. Today, we are on a special journey because it is a journey I'm going to be doing by myself. My co-host, Millie Pampina, had an unexpected not emergency, but a situation that she needed to deal with. So today you are going to have me as your guide. So as I walk along this journey today, I have a very special guest that I have, and her name is Mary Plummer. So after 37 years in the corporate career, leading large, complex projects, organizations, Mary focused this last phase of her life on the spiritual journey, self-discovery, self-healing, and transformation of her life's purpose. She is a counselor, healer, Holy Fire 3 master teacher, and an animal Reiki master teacher. And she's an animal communicator, some of my favorite people. She volunteers as a healer at the Distance Healing Network, sending healing to people and animals. She not only does that, but she mentors and teaches adults and teaches children for her Reiki for Kids program. According to Mary, she's offering healing, sharing stories, mentoring, and teaching. And these are all services to the most important facets of her life purpose. She is not only the caretaker of her family legacy, coming from a long line of healers, and that is why she is the shower cycle breaker to rejuvenate her family's lineage as she continues as a teacher, mentor. Her life experience was designed to prepare her to help others understand and accept that death is a part of life. This includes the cycle of loss, sorrow, mourning, and grief. And when we lose someone dear, as well as essential, and the continual death rebirth cycles that enable us to grow and rise. She is also an avid student of the arts and enjoys weaving, watercolor, painting. And she lives in the mountains of South Carolina, and I used to live in South Carolina as well, Charleston, South Carolina, with her husband Larry and her 4 rescue dogs and cats. So welcome, Mary, to Ready, Set Reiki. It is so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Wonderful. So as we begin our journey on Ready, Set Reiki, we have a set of questions that we ask. And the first one is, tell us a little bit about yourself. I read your fantastic bio, but let's hear it in your own words.
Okay. Well, like you, I am originally from Pennsylvania, but I grew up in Philadelphia. And we've been living here in South Carolina for about 10 years. But whereas you were on the coast with Charleston, we are all the way up in the mountains on a 28-mile lake. It is paradise.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm the oldest girl of 8 children, spent some time raising my siblings, and had a series of pretty unusual entrepreneurial jobs before I took my first corporate position. 38 years in business. And what was ironic to me is I gravitated to a mentor-teacher role, even in a corporate environment, and now in my spiritual work.
That's amazing. That's so interesting with that, how the universe seems to guide us again on that journey.
Exactly. Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, that was kind of my thing too in my path with teaching, being guided towards mentorship. So teaching as well. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So when did Reiki come into your life?
Reiki found me 2 weeks after my son died in 2012. And that kicked off an 11-year journey of healing and learning. And over those 11 years, I went through the training that you've described, as well as Karuna Reiki. To get more practice with the animal Reiki, I started to volunteer at the local shelter. Now, I'm not allowed to go there anymore. I have to do it distantly because animals keep following me home, and my husband said we're full. So,
Yes, that happens to me too.
oh, good. So, a kindred spirit. But what I want to share is my first story there, because this is when I knew how powerful animal Reiki could be. I showed up, it was my first visit, and the place was filled with families who were all milling around looking who were they going to adopt. And I sat down to wait. I wanted to speak to the director before I went through the facility. And this little guy was in a cage, this little dog. I think he might have been a min pin. And he was barking and he was melting down and he was so nervous, and my heart went out to him. And so I sort of quietly communicated with him that he was safe. And then just kind of took my hands and just sent him a little bit of Reiki until he yawned and laid down and curled up. And then went about my business. I went cage to cage. And on my way out, here is this family filling out paperwork, and the little girl's holding my little guy. And I went, the shape that he was in when I first came in, I knew that the Reiki was responsible for him relaxing and opening to that. So
Wonderful.
it just thrilled me. And so now I spend my time teaching holy fire classes, animal Reiki. I do sessions for people and pets. I do a lot of mentoring. And last year I was directed to create the Reiki for kids. And I've been working on that as well. So
Wonderful. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Reiki for kids?
Sure. It's interesting. Okay, here's the better place to start. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but as an empath and a healer, growing up, I never felt like I quite fit, you know? And I was thinking of all of these kids in times that we have now where there's so much going on. And what if a child can feel the energy and feel that connection and know that they're not alone, they've never been alone, right? And feel that connection to the universe. That was really the impetus. That, and in meditation one day I was told you need to create a program. So I did. But it's not a class full of children. It's almost a 1 to 2 at a time mentoring.
Right,
And
right.
it's been received pretty well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it's interesting when I don't know if this happens with you in your teaching. I've had experiences where I've had students who have been in a classroom, and then the universe, through things, when they go to that next level, they end up getting a one-on-one with me. And they have made the comment that, you know what, I really enjoy the one-on-one more than the class because I get to ask you more in-depth questions with it. They're often limited in that classroom. They don't want to say something or interrupt anybody else's time. So that's what's kind of interesting with that, because it just seemed there was a season of my life I just kept getting these one-on-ones. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then I'll get a class. And then the next time, when, you know, a few months had passed by and that one of the students was ready to upgrade, so to speak, they made that comment, like, I really like the one-on-one better. So it's interesting. So same thing with kids. And I find that in yoga too. You know, you have the classes and you're getting 1 or 2 people, and it just depends, especially in the summer, you know, with that. So, hey, get your own private little class. But oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
So our next question is what do you wish your younger self knew about this current profession that you're in?
Well, I'm going to say nothing. I am not one to go and say, I wish I could do over this or do over that, because I really believe in divine timing. And when I was younger, it was not the time in my life to turn to this, because I had such a deep healing journey that I had to do. If I had found Reiki when I was younger, I don't know if I would have pursued it, and I don't know if I would have done it for the right reasons.
That's what's interesting. It's wonderful that you listen to yourself with that, because people just kind of look in that rearview mirror, looking at the past, and this could have been done differently. This could have been done differently. And I tell my students, just, embrace these lessons. They are lessons. So all these trials, tribulations, obstacles are all going to help somebody one day. It may not make sense now. One of my students, was the same thing. It's like everything that you're going through right now, you are going to be exactly what someone needs. It may be 10, it may be 20, maybe 25 years from now, but no, there's a reason for this. We have to experience these things. Life isn't easy, so, and Reiki helps in this journey as well.
Your students are so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you.
That's great wisdom to pass along.
Right. And I feel that I'm lucky to have them, and the universe and it's always a thread of similarities. Even when I do my trainings, we all have like one thing in common. We'll either all be teachers, or, we'll all have like, dogs, or so, like you and I have it, so we have those similarities. It's just wonderful how the universe beautifully connects all of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So when it is time, you are this seasoned master teacher. When it is time for you to get Reiki, to see a practitioner, what are some of the qualities that you look for in a Reiki practitioner?
My first thing I look for is somebody who's open, someone who doesn't feel they have all the answers, that they are interested in being led, letting spirit and let the energy take them where they need to. I would say those are probably the most important qualities I look for.
Wonderful. We've been very blessed to have, guests on our little podcast, and it's so interesting hearing everyone's answer to that question because it's so unique. And those who are the curious beginners, it's nice for them to just get a variety of different answers so that they in themselves can make the choice. They can use their, intuition, guidance, spirit to find what's best for them. So when I teach yoga specifically, I tell students, this is the shape I'm going to guide you into, and you have control over yourself to how your body feels in that. And I always say, find your Goldilocks. Find your Goldilocks. That what feels just right. So you'll teach students different techniques, and it may not feel right. They may not like it. They may not like, I don't like the Reiki with the eyes. I don't like there's a thigh method where you envision your thighs as that person. You may not like that.
Right.
Then don't do it. Find the way. These are, suggestions, recommendations. We're not reinventing the wheel. And just take what feels right and go with it, So, and that's the same thing with the practitioners, going and getting that tune up, because we as teachers, we need tune-ups as well, and going with others and experiencing that, because when we're in service, we're healing. When we're healing, we're in service. So, and just the bottom line is just how it feels with you, with that person, to have that connection. So wonderful. So you've been in this for a little while. You have different levels of learning that you have gone through and taught. So what advice you would give to someone who is just starting out? They are hearing this word Reiki. What is it? They jump, of course, online. They start searching. It's a little confusing. So what advice would you give our curious beginners on Ready, Set, Reiki?
I think the first thing I would say is be willing to put in the work, a solid daily practice, morning and night, and meditation. Be comfortable with trusting that the divine is going to lead you. I know most people I'm going to do this, and they want to control what happens, and they have a plan, and they want to follow the plan. And you can do that, but when you have a plan, God laughs, you.
For sure.
Yeah. I think it also is useful if you surround yourself with like-minded people. If you are drawn to Reiki and you're a healer, chances are you felt a bit like odd man out growing up. So surround yourself with people who can talk to you about Reiki so you can listen to what they're saying and what they've learned. Call in, and I mean call in, right? The right teachers and mentors for you, and then trust your gut when they show up, because that's really important. And I think the last thing is, because this throws a lot of people that I mentor, expect beginnings and endings. We have to empty and end some things to bring in what's new. There will be new teachers, there will be new gifts and capabilities. You know, you wake up one morning and things are different. Those cycles of beginnings and endings are really critical if you're going to continue to rise and become what you're meant to be.
Wonderful. I love that. And that's often not said when, asking people this question. So I love that you incorporated in that with that cycle as well, because people are so tethered to a particular outcome and they can't let that go. But the universe obviously has other plans for them. So just go with the flow, trust that process, and you're going to get to exactly where you are supposed to be. So, like my experience with El Paso, I did not want to come. I did not want to leave. I was leaving behind many, many things. And I was holding on. I'm like, no, I want to stay in Pennsylvania. And finally just kind of surrendered to the process. And now, I'm doing many things here. It has been an opportunity of abundance that I had never expected. So, sometimes you got to let go and just trust the process and where you're supposed to be guided. So, and know that ending, as you said, may be a beautiful beginning. I mean, it would be nice if we could flip through the book, right, of life and go later in the chapter to get a sneak peek. But
I'm the opposite of trust, but yeah, I'm with you.
Right, for sure. And it's, and sometimes my kids will ask me a question and I'm like, I don't know. We don't know the end of the story yet. I don't know. So we just have to trust the process. Or they'll say something about this. Well, this isn't fair. Well, you know what? We're not almost at the end of the story. It may make sense later on why someone gets this or this happens with things. And I believe it always kind of balances out on the end. So we don't know. So
It does. I think that's why when you call in something, you always end it with this or better.
This or better, right? Or highest good is another one I use too. I would tell my students that, I do a manifesting journal every day. And before it was like a laundry list of things, right? And then I would play with the universe and I would put quotes in things and the universe would answer it back. And I remember when I started doing this, probably about three and a half years ago, and I would write something like, "You're so smart, Tracy," in quotes. Well, I remember going into work and a coworker, now this was said sarcastically, I didn't ask the universe what tone. So she goes, "Aren't you smart, Miss Tracy?" Well, I got what I asked for. Did I ask for it to be authentic? No. So
I love it.
So with that, it became, what if I was limiting myself? Maybe God, source, whatever had better plans for me. And me writing this little laundry list was just the tip of the iceberg, right? So then I shifted it to my highest good. So there's a whole other perspective I'm not seeing, who's seeing all the players and all the opportunities, but I was limiting myself just saying like, oh, I would like this today,
Yeah, you just triggered a memory. I was probably a preteen. I was an adolescent, and someone told me this story and said it was about when they went up to heaven. They were getting a tour of heaven, and there was this warehouse that stretched for as long as you could see. And they took this person inside, and there were boxes with names on them. And the young child said, "Well, is my name on there?" "Yeah, come on, let's go get your box." And well, what's in there? What's in there is all of the stuff that God wanted to give you that you never asked for. And that just,
Right.
I don't know, it stayed with me.
Right. All these wonderful things, but we're so focused. We have that just one view of things, right? Instead of that higher perspective, and that's kind of why I always resonate with the eagle as a spirit animal,
Yes.
because it is one of the only creatures that is not afraid to fly in the storm, but also has that unique perspective of flying above and looking down. So that's one always that resonates with me. So yeah, of course, welcome. That's wonderful. So our next question is, are there any archangels, particular spirit guides that you work with in your Reiki, whether it is practice, teaching, or giving sessions?
Yeah, actually. And in a lot of my meditation work, I got to meet and connect with them. Archangel Michael has been with me since I've been about 3 years old. And he was kind of my mainstay for a while. Archangel Raphael, when I started my healing journey, and when I was really diving into my Reiki master training, called me as a healer and attuned my highest heart. But now Archangel Gabriel is most active with me. And I think that's because of my mission with helping people with death. And I guess lastly, Jesus and Mother Mary. Mother Mary is the one who helped me most with healing after my son died.
Mm.
And she and Jesus are kind of with me. I know they're not archangels, but they're with me all the time.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah, it's so powerful. Many of our guests, their go-to is Archangel Michael. So I often say, boy, he's really tired.
Exactly. Yes.
He's out there doing a lot of work.
Yes.
Wonderful. So the next question I have is, what services do you offer and where can we find you?
Well, one of the things that I have started offering is helping people understand and accept death. And I've mentioned that a couple of times, but I think it's important if I can just talk for a minute about that, because it starts with what we should be doing every day, which is healing ourselves. And sometimes I think we don't even understand that there's more there to heal. Just last week, I was doing Reiki master training with a really gifted healer, and we got interrupted just after ignition number 3.
Mm.
And when I checked in about, okay, how should I structure the remaining training? I was told to stop, that this individual needed more internal work. And so I gave her, okay, 21 days. There's some shadow work. When she finished, it was like I was talking to a whole different person. She was clear, she was whole, she was empowered, and we proceeded. And that self-healing helps because we've all experienced loss, whether it's the loss of good health, a relationship, a career, an actual death, or those cycles that I talk about. We go through those cycles, shedding and gaining. But healers and empaths, highly sensitive people who've experienced trauma, they feel loss so much more acutely. They feel broken, they feel alone, and they're the people that I need to reach out to. I'm being led to do that. So my services, that's just for a long way to answer your question. I mean, I do Reiki training. I do sessions. I do mentoring. And I will have a specific focus on this because there's so many wrong ways to navigate loss. And I know because I've had a lot of opportunities to do that. There's running and hiding, cramming your emotions, staying curled up on the floor, making my loss about who I am. I'm a bereaved mother. Just a short snapshot with my life. My younger brother, Tommy, took his life at age 26.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 years later, my youngest brother, Brian, did as well. My sister, Maureen, was 33. She threw a blood clot into her lung. There was no chance to save her. And then years later, we got a phone call. There were 2 accidents in one day. My sister, Joanne, survived hers, but her children were then involved with a tractor trailer, and her 12-year-old Katie did not. And then my only aunt died. And then I already shared my worst fear that my son would die young. That happened. And for the longest time I went through life, I was such a different person. Look at all of the bad things that have happened. And I didn't understand it until Archangel Gabriel enlightened me and said, you are being prepared, because people are afraid to talk about death. They go to talk to somebody and they don't know what to say. And so silly things come out. I will never forget, a couple days after Stephen died, a woman I considered a friend came up to me and said, I know just how you feel. My dog died last week. But I gave her grace. She was trying to comfort me, and her dog was probably the most important thing in her life. But I've talked to other parents who have said, oh, how could, so basically my purpose is to help people realize death is an expansion of light, and just to share that if we can shift from a focus, sorrow, it's all about us. All pervasive pain is what Pema Chodron calls it. Mm-hmm. Once you look at others and you take the focus off yourself, it becomes mourning that you can share, and then eventually grief, which is all about love. Mm-hmm. And you talked about the eagle. Another way to heal is not just mindfully and with openness, but come up to the 50,000 foot level and be a witness and look at your life. The stories, you can reframe them. You can see the bigger purpose, and then you can connect back in. So that is the main thing I wanted to talk about today, is maybe to turn a light on for some people as they think about death, that it's inevitable. It's going to happen to all of us. Why not embrace it and help others embrace it? Mm-hmm. So, and as far as how to find me, I do have a website, but I'm still tweaking. I do my own web work, and technology is not really my first strength. So I'm fixing a couple of links. But the best way to find me is I have a Gmail account, and it's my name, MaryAnn Plummer with a 1, MaryAnnPlummer1@gmail.com. And every day I call in those who want to work with me that I can help and want to work with. So I know I connect with the people I'm supposed to, and I'm open to anyone who wants to contact me.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I also want to say I am so sorry for your loss, your losses, and what a beautiful thing that Archangel Gabriel has been by your side through this, because he was the archangel that was with Mary to comfort her and let her know that she was going to be expecting Jesus. So, and you think about that, what a scary thing for a 15-year-old. And there was Archangel Gabriel being there of service. So it was wonderful that it has shown up in your life to help guide you through this, because it's just really just a difficult emotion to deal with it when it comes. I don't even want to say knocking on your door, because it knocks it down, breaks through the door. So, and you're like, what do I do with this? It really turns your world upside down. And I am so proud of you that you're able to take these situations in your life and losses and come and pick it up and be of service to others. And that's wherein lies the healing for you. So thank you for the work that you're doing and helping others out there and putting this perspective on it, because someone who's listening, it may really resonate and touch their soul with this. So
that's what I hope. But I have to say, I take no credit for it. I have been carried. The right people have come into my life.
Right. How
I
always say that God uses me as a tool.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. So I'll have people say, you healed me, which I don't like that word healing. You know, we're not a replacement for the doctor. Reiki's a beautiful thing to walk alongside that medical treatment. You know, we don't want people to stop taking their medication. You know, we're just all about being that little bit of extra love and comfort, relaxation, you know, being of that service. So,
Yeah, but there are people, I mean, there is a perception that this is not of goodness or it's not of the light.
hmm
And the energy that we channel, the unconditional love, flows from God. And if
hmm
you look at the complexity and perfection of our world and how we are able to connect into the oneness of everything, how could you ever doubt that?
hmm hmm
Right?
Right, right, right. And it's often hard to explain because we'll ask guests their version of that, and we get all different types of it. But the whole core of it is just love and your highest
Yes.
good. And that's what it is, because it's like people will have these misperceptions. It's Japanese, so it must be this or it must be that. It must be woohoo, you know. And then the core of it is when Jesus Christ walked on this earth, what was he about? Love. And that's what that's about. So those who, you know, that I absolutely admire with their dedication, you know, to the Bible, their faith, you know, but not being a little bit open to see the similarities in that work as well through.
Well, there's religion and there's Reiki, and you
Mhm,
can have both,
mhm,
and both will inform your perspective.
sure,
And you know what? The duality, good, bad, light, dark, we need that in our human experience because
sure.
that is the friction that causes us to
Mhm.
change.
Right, right. And that's the first heaven. So, those of you who are not familiar in Holy Fire, William Rand talks about the 12 heavens.
Mm.
And it's that third heaven where we release that ego mind. So, we have that first heaven of the dualities, that love, that hate, the good and the bad, you know, the dark and the light. And so, that's a school. That's why we're basically in the school of earth, so to say, and to learn that. And so Holy Fire always invites those low density energies, things that are not good, to go to that third heaven, that light of compassion, the light of grace will take them. So that's why this is Holy Fire is such a beautiful energy to work with.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I mean, we're human, we still have an ego. And so I'm sure other people like me, you do get a little affected by
hmm
perceptions that aren't positive. Even with my own parents,
hmm
I'll do this quickly. I know we're running out of time. My mom had a heart procedure and she was in the hospital, and the monitors were lined up here. And my dad was sitting looking at her and facing the monitors. I really had never told them what I did. I mean, they knew I retired from corporate, and I don't know what they thought I did, but I was standing with my back to the monitors and very nonchalantly had my hands like this. And then I'd move to the next, you know, I was sort of scanning and sending energy. And my dad started to pay attention. And all of a sudden he said, Mare, what's going on? Every time your hands are still, all of mom's numbers come down. Then you move your hands a little bit, the numbers go up. And then when you hold them still again, her numbers go down. And that was my opening to explain Reiki.
There you go. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, in this section, this is on the journey where I, as the guide, would pass it off to my co guide, Millie Pampina. And those of you just tuning in now, she had an unexpected situation she had to deal with. So, I am going to take over the role and continue on the journey the rest of the way. So, we asked social media for some questions, and I narrow it down to 3 questions. So this is the first one. So one of our listeners asked, "What system of Reiki do you do?"
Um, I learned Usui Reiki Ryoho for level 1 and 2, and then Holy Fire 3. So unless a client asks differently, I will use Holy Fire 3 or I will use the Animal Reiki.
Wonderful. And our next question is from our very curious beginners that we have. What should I focus on during a Reiki session?
Well, you know the answer to that, getting out of the way.
Well, well, we know that.
I know. So let me expand. Because Reiki is an intelligent energy, it already knows what to do. And there are wonderful Reiki healers who have created processes and systems to put clients at ease. They may use, music and crystals and things like that. But their focus is always on the client. So the one thing that I focus on before I start is I call in my spirit team and the spirit team of the client, and I ask for guidance and direction. And as I am working, I'm asking continually for insights and all of that. But my focus is always on moving the energy through me, listening for insights, and focusing on what I feel with the client.
Okay. So what would you recommend from a client's perspective, brand new, lying on that healing table, eyes closed? Do you recommend like affirmations or just being in the energy?
Well, I always recommend the surrender. Just let the energy do what it is doing. Relax, open yourself, and stay in a receptive state. You can do anything you want. Different people have, different processes, but I think that is the way to get the most from the Reiki that's being given to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. That has been all the questions from our viewers that we have, our little listeners, and the questions for Ready, Set, Reiki. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. So those of you who'd like to know a little bit more about Mary, you can find her online. You can find us on our webpage, www.ReadySetReiki.com, to look her up, to find all the wonderful things that she offers. And in this part, I usually turn it over to Millie, who always says something beautiful, but I'll end up butchering it. But the bottom line of it is seeing beauty in all things. So she usually says a beautiful quote in the end of it, the point of it, and seeing beauty in all things. So thank you to our listeners. My name is Tracy C. Wright, and I have been your guide on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey. Again, you can find us online on Facebook, Instagram, and on our webpage. And again, that is www.ReadySetReiki.com. So thank you again, Mary. It has been a pleasure. Until next time, thank you, friends.